Hello students, welcome to the subject of production and operations management. We have already started with unit number 3, that is facility layout, and it is a relative topic to what we have done earlier, that is facility location. When we say the term facility location, one must understand we are pinpointing the place, and when we are talking about facility layout, it is we are talking about the internal arrangement of whatever facilities that an industry or a service sector may need. And based on this particular perspective, the whole unit is based. We have checked out so many introductory parts in the lecture that we have seen earlier, right? Here we will be just summing up few things, that means the introduction, and then we move on with the rest of the portion. Let us see it how it goes. As I told you earlier also in the earlier lecture, that we may be discussing different points related to the unit, that is introduction, maybe meaning, definition, need for layout, decisions, which we have checked out in the first lecture. In the second lecture, here today we are going to check out with few more points. In all, we will be dealing almost as many as 16 different aspects of the layout. So, we can say that in the previous lecture, plant layout is the appropriate arrangement of machinery, equipments, and other industrial facilities. The main purpose of the plant layout is to achieve the fastest and the smoothest production at the minimum cost. Thus, we can deduce the following points. Now, that means if we want to sum up that what is plant layout, if we just want to revise rather that what is plant layout, then we can say that it is appropriate arrangement of what? Appropriate arrangement of what? It means appropriate designing or internal structuring of machinery, equipments, and other all the industrial facilities. And the main purpose behind having a good layout is that we may achieve the fastest and the smoothest production even at the minimum cost. That means if a industry haphazardly plans out its production after deciding its location, then what happens is if the layout is not properly designed, then it may not have the fastest, it may not have the smoothest, or it may not have the cost effective production. So if it wants to have the manufacturing done with all these three efficiencies, that means it should be rapid also, it should be smooth and convenient also, and at the same time it should not cost you high. Then what is important is to have the proper layout. That means layout is internal designing of the factory or maybe the plant, which helps the manufacturer to produce things at the fastest rate with the smoothest convenience and at the lowest cost. Thus, the subject of the plant layout not only covers the initial layout of the machines and other facilities, but also encompasses improvement or revision of the existing layout in the light of subsequent development in the methods of production. That means initially if you are designing, if you are starting with a new venture and you are designing your plant, that may be one of the one single way of having the layout, but even it may be a kind of improvement of whatever the existing things are. When you feel that you need a little bit of development, when the methods of production are changing, you may have to even change the layout, and that is also a part of facility layout. Facilities management is an important, thus strategic level decision taken by the organization. So if you have decided what to produce, you have decided where to produce, and then how to produce. That means how to produce, that tells you how the internal arrangement should be there, how the machinery equipment should be placed so that we have the fastest, smoothest and the cost effective manufacturing done. For that, whatever arrangement, whatever facilities we arrange it, or we have the proper placement of the things, then it is said to be a strategic level decision, which is generally taken up by the higher level authorities. The purpose again remains the same, that it wants to have the convenient production there. So, layout means the positioning of the various equipments, machineries and department facilities so as to maximize productivity and valuable space utilization. That means when a person wants that I want to maximize the productivity, I want to see that the space is utilized in the best possible manner, then I have to definitely go for a perfect layout or perfect internal designing. When I do that, only then I'll be able to achieve the ultimate goals of producing some particular item in the say determined time period and at the minimum cost. Thus we can say that layout plays a very vital role in a manufacturing unit. Even in the service unit, it has its own importance. We'll be checking those things in the future lectures that we'll be seeing it here. So we can say few things here. What I have done is I have just marked two such definitions which we have already checked out in the earlier lecture. We are just going to repeat them so that again the fresh thing comes up to you, that what is the meaning of layout. Thus, plant layout ideally involves, mind my words, plant layout ideally involves allocation of space and arrangement of equipments in such a manner that overall costs are minimized. See, many a times we must have seen that there is lot of space but it has not been utilized. Then at times you may find out that the space was very small but it has been very nicely utilized. At that time the layout plays an important role. That means it involves two things: allocation of space and allocation or the arrangement of equipments. That means allocation and arrangement of equipments. This definition has been nicely given, very simply given by J.M. Lundy. That is why we can say that when we are deciding plant layout, what are we doing? We are allocating the space. Allocating the space means giving the space to each and every facility or the equipment or machinery that we may be using. And how do we arrange it? How do we design it so that everything goes proper and there is a smooth flow of production without any hurdles? Then that is what is said to be the plant layout. Here one more definition we have given, that is a general definition of plant layout, which tells us that it refers to the arrangement and location of the different departments and of the machinery within the department so that an optimum utilization of space available can be made. That means the plant layout is what? It is arrangement. Arrangement of what? Arrangement of different facilities, maybe different departments, maybe machineries or equipments in such a way that optimum, that means maximum use of the space available can be made. That means whatever space do we have, whether it is a vast space, then accordingly the arrangement should be done so that we are not wasting the time in shifting one thing from one place, one machine to the another. That's one consideration. The other one is if the space is small enough, even though it should not be a hurdle for the manufacturer. At that time the space is so utilized that the manufacturing process goes on very easily. That is why it is the optimum use of the space that is available to us, and in that space we are making the arrangement of whatever facilities that we require. When we do this, we say that we have done the plant layout. So that was just the introduction or maybe the refreshment of whatever we have done in the previous lecture. Now what we are doing and the slides to come, that will tell us everything that is new. So let us see the scope of plant layout. Scope means area of function, wherever it can function, wherever the whatever the areas it includes, that may be considered as scope, right? So either it is function or scope of plant layout, we can say that how it deals or what it is all about. There are various aspects to be dealt during the facility decisions. The following can be considered as the scope or area of performance of facility layout. That means whatever points we are going to study, that will tell us that here the facility layout works. Actually the work or functioning of the layout decision is done at this particular place. So let us see it one by one. What is first scope here? Number one, what centers should the layout include? That means one must know, if I'm a manufacturer, I must know that what type of centers will I require. I'll need the storage space, I may need the foyer area, I may need the administrative office area, I may need the parking place, I may need the canteen place, I may need the production house or production place wherein I can have my, say, 5 stages of production are there, then I can place them all very well. Those are considered to be the centers. Means whatever the different activities or particular activities that are to be performed, that what we should include in the layout, that should be decided. So that is point number 1. Next tells us how much space and capacity does each center require. Suppose if 5 main centers are there in my factory, then I need to see that what space is required by single function there. Suppose one important center, it may need the space of 1 acre, or maybe the 1 acre space may be divided into different square feet, so that we can actually make the arrangement done properly. That is why how much space and capacity does each center need, that is also one of the area of work. Third one is how should each center space be configured, that means how it should be adjusted. Supposingly each function, 5 functions are there, 5 centers are there, then each center may not require the equal amount of space. Then at that time we should know that how we are going to make the arrangements, right? Next comes up is where should each center be located. Very important. If you enter immediately, once you enter the main gate, then it is always that parking, then the foyer area, then maybe the administrative area, then maybe the next other areas may be there. For example, take the example of our college, right? Once you enter, that means which area is located at which place, that is very important. Suppose if you are entering our college, then it is always the main gate. On the main gate, once you enter, that means you see the parking on both the sides of the main gate. Again, when you enter, you see the center foyer area, right, which is nicely telling you about how the structure is of the college. If you just enter the foyer area, you can come to know that on your right it is the commerce management wing, on the left it is the IT wing. IT wing has the lab facility. In the commerce management area, we do have the administrative office, maybe the director's office, maybe the library, maybe the classes. Once that floor is done, you go to the first floor, there are different classes. That means where should each center be located, that has to be decided. And when you decide this, it comes under the work of plant layout, right? So the location of center has 2 dimensions. Where the center should be located can be dealt with 2 things. Number 1, relative location, and then the next is absolute location. Relative location tells us what? That is the placement of a center relative to other centers, and absolute location or the particular space that center occupies within the facility. Means if the storeroom is to be placed, then storeroom always will be in houses also we have seen that storeroom generally is near the kitchen area, right? That means whatever the relative things are required, we can make it very easily. On the other hand, absolute location tells us about what the absolutely whatever the facilities that we require in a particular for a particular function, that has to be given a separate kind of arrangement. So it is with the 2 dimensions that we can make the facility available to the industry or maybe the factory. Let us go ahead. Here we are going to check out with the different objectives. What we have done earlier are said to be the scope where the plant layout works. Here we are going to check out with few objectives, that what is the objective, what is the aim of having a good layout, why it helps us or how it helps us. Then here one by one, they are very simple points to understand that what are the objectives of ideal layout. And let me just remind you this also, that it has been asked in the form of short note earlier in the previous papers. So from the examination point of view, yes, it is important, right? So here we'll be checking it out with the objectives. What is the objective? What is the aim? What is the purpose of having the good layout? Here, number 1, higher utilization of space, equipments and people can be done. Here people we mean employees. Definitely if we have the plant layout done properly, we can make the use of space that is available, the equipments that we are going to use and the employees who are working. Next important point comes up is improved flow of materials, information and people, right? We can make the flow of materials easy, the information can be transformed easily or transferred easily, the people or employees can work very conveniently. That is point number 2. Number 3, improved employees morale and safe working conditions, because if the employee are placed in a congested place or they are not given enough space, then the morale may reduce, or maybe the safety does not work, or they are not safe enough to work with the conditions. Then at that time the productivity is affected, and that is why it is one of the objective that if you have an ideal layout, their morale will be high and it would be safe to work with. Higher flexibility, that means to change the layout easily. I give you the simplest example. If you have one arrangement in your sitting area, that means in a drawing room, right? Say in a Diwali period, or maybe in the occasion period, or maybe in kind of in circumstances like you are going to have a big occasion at your place, then what we do is we make the flexible arrangement of the room, or we change the arrangement of the room so that it can handle whatever the occasion or the circumstances is. That means there has to be a higher flexibility. The same is applicable in the factories also. Next comes up is improved production capacity. If the production capacity, how it can be improved, that means if the machines are placed one by one, they are synchronized properly, they are so placed, so very well arranged that it comes up, the production comes up very easily and smoothly. That will help the production capacity to remain at ease or to increase it, right? Next comes up is reduced material handling. Means once you are passing from one machine to the another one, the material handling cost is incurred. Maybe I have told you earlier also that it is maybe manual transferring of the material from one machine to the another, or at times maybe conveyor belts may be used, the trolleys may be used, they all cost you. And once if you have a proper arrangement, then it becomes very easy for us to carry out with the material handling also, and that reduces the cost. The best example is if you can visualize your college, it's a way of having a virtual tour to the college, right? I'm taking to the virtual tour to the college right now. Supposingly if one class, that means if one lecture is arranged in room number 10, right? And then after some time, that means after a lecture, you are being told that okay, shift yourselves to room number 2 downstairs, right? In the third lecture again you are told to move to the lab. In the fourth lecture you are again asked to move to room number say 3 in the wing, in the management wing. Then what happens is you keep on moving from one place to another, and that reduces the efficiency to work. Same thing happens when you are not arranging the things properly. What happens is it increases the material handling cost, and when the cost increases in any of the form, it is not advisable for the manufacturer. Next comes up is reduce congestion and reduce bottleneck center. Once everything is arranged at its place, means everything at a right place, then what happens is congestion is not there, there is not too much stocking of the things, plus bottlenecks can be avoided, entry exit becomes easy. Next, reduced health hazards and accidents. Definitely if you are working with the machines that are really said to be say dangerous to work in, say they are having the blades, they are having the spikes, and if they are placed very near to each other, then what happens is it may be prone to accidents. That means it may be so that health of the or safety of the workers or employees may not be maintained, and what happens ultimately is it may turn up into a fatal accident. So to avoid that also, a proper layout is a must. Next comes up is excellent or efficient utilization of labor, reduced idle time of the labor and equipments. If you are having a good arrangement, that you can have the efficient use of labor. The labor exactly knows what they have to do, their idle time is being utilized properly, and even the equipments are not left idle. That means બધું જ તમે બરાબર બધી જ ફેસિલિટીઝને તમે એકદમ સરળતાથી એકદમ સરસ રીતે વાપરી શકો, which gives the best use of whatever is taken into it, right? Next comes up is to provide product flexibility and volume flexibility. If bulk things are to be produced, then definitely you need more space. Then if you have the arrangement so done or layout so done, then you may have the flexibility to manage the different volumes, low volume or maybe high volume of the production. Next comes up is to provide ease of supervision. If things are not congested, if the layout is designed properly, if you know what is placed where, right, then what happens is ultimately you can have the supervision done very easily, and it becomes easy for the supervisor also on the contrary to check the activities. Next, to facilitate better coordination and face to face communication where needed. Wherever you need the face to face communication, then if the proper layout is there, you can see each other, you can check out with the employees work, there is a proper coordination in the work, and then what happens ultimately is proper communication or the discourse or maybe the distribution or say the orders that are to be given, they can be taken up easily and it can be followed also. Next, to allow ease of maintenance of the different equipments is required at different times, right? Every time you can't have the machines working 24/7. You need to maintain them. It needs a little bit of wear and tear after a period of time, and if you are having a good layout, then you can do the maintenance activities simultaneously, or maybe you can do the preventive activities, or you can take up with the after shutdown activities of the maintenance can be done very easily. Next, to utilize the available space efficiently and effectively. Definitely it is one of the very important objective. If you have a proper layout, what you can do is whatever space is available, we can use it very efficiently and effectively. And next and the last one, it improves the productivity. Ultimately, whatever is to be produced, whatever inputs you put in and whatever output you want, and in between the process goes on smoothly, the process goes on very systematically in a methodical way, then what happens is definitely it improves the productivity on the other side. So whatever we have mentioned here or whatever we have studied here under the different points, they tells us about the objectives of the plant layout, they tells us about the purpose of the plant layout, or it can be aims also. All right, next what we are going to deal are the importance, right? There are many importance of layout choices that we'll be saying it here. There is one point related to existing and the other one is altering means when you want to change the layout, then when the change is required, when the flow of material you want very easy, when you want to increase the efficient utilization of the labor and equipment, when you want to have the customer convenience in the time in the places where services are involved, you want to reduce the hazards of the employees, when you want to increase the morale, or when you want to communicate properly, these all alterations may be done in the layout, right? Here we are going to see the importance with the help of different points. Let us see it. To understand the importance of layout, it would be better to understand the influence of an efficient layout on manufacturing function. This makes the working smooth and efficient. It is always that an ideally laid out plant reduces manufacturing cost through reduced material handling, reduced personnel and equipments, maybe reduce in-process inventory, and the following points highlights on all the importance. Why it is so important, why we need to take up the care, why we need to see that this important decision is taken up properly. Then under the different points, we are going to study as many as 11 points, right, which tells us which tells us that why it is important to have a plant layout, or what are the importances of the plant layout. Number 1, economies in handling. Almost 30 to 40% of the manufacturing cost is accounted by material handling. Thus, every attempt should be made to cut down on this cost. Long distance movement should be avoided and specific handling operations must be eliminated. Thus, to decrease the intensity of the material handling, the layout has to be favorable. Very, very important. See here, even the percentage ratio has been given. That means 30 to 40% of the manufacturing cost that is incurred, it is on a material handling. Suppose if I told you, I gave you the example that you keep on moving the material, say from one place to the another, so say from first floor to the second floor, for the from second floor to the third floor, right, from third floor to again ground floor, something like this goes on, then what happens is it increases the material handling cost. And at times you may have to use the machines, you may have to use the operations, there maybe conveyor belts are used, maybe the trolleys are used, maybe the manually the handling is being done. In all the cases, what happens is we are transferring, or we are carrying out, or we are increasing the material handling cost. So to economize that or to reduce that, it is very important to have the proper layout done. Let us go to the second one, that is effective use of available area. Constantly I have been telling that whatever the space that we have, right, it should be effectively used. If it is used effectively, that means every inch makes the difference. So every inch of the plant is valuable, and effort should therefore be made to make sure or make use the available area by planning the layout properly. For this, the location of equipment and services should be well planned, as at times they may perform multiple functions. Development of the up-to-date areas and full utilization of the labor force can be done easily. That means whatever space that you have, we can make it the best out of it. Multiple functions are to be done, yes, we can do it. If the any updates are to be made, we can do it. If we want to make the space used for labor force, we can do it. Means ultimately we can make the best out of whatever area is available. The third point is minimize the production delays. Means if you have a proper layout, what happens is we can reduce the amount of delays. The delays does not happen. The delivery schedules can be maintained easily. The execution of the orders can be done. The long distance movement of the materials can be managed, and everything can be worked out properly. So an ideal layout eliminates such causes of the delays, and that can be done very easily with the help of the layout planned out properly. The fourth one comes up is improved quality control. That means timely execution of the orders will be meaningful when the quality is not below the expectation. To ensure quality, inspection should be conducted at different stages of manufacture. An ideal an ideal layout provides for inspection to ensure better quality control. Once you have a proper layout, the supervision, just before a few minutes I had a point on supervision, right? That means supervision or inspection can be done very easily. We can ensure that each and every process is going proper, and that helps to have the better quality control. The next comes up is minimum equipment investment. If you know how the place that we are going to use, how we are going to make the arrangement, then what happens is the investment also can be reduced. How? Investment on equipment can be minimized by planned machine balance and location minimum handling distances. A good plant layout provide all these advantages. That means if three machines are to be used simultaneously, if they are placed in such a manner that they give you the best, then what happens is we will ultimately make use of these three machines, and we will not plan to have the fourth one there. So that what we are doing is we are saving the investment and we are cutting the cost somewhere, and on the contrary, what we do is we are even trying to manage the manufacturing. So that is point number 5. We go to the next one, avoidance of bottlenecks. I have explained the term bottlenecks earlier also. Bottlenecks is a kind of congestion carried out or maybe happening while the exit and entry of the things or the material is there. So bottlenecks refer to any place in a production process where material tends to pile up or produced at the rates of the speed less rapid than the previous or subsequent operation. It can be caused because of inadequate machine capacity, inadequate storage space, or low speed on the part of operators. All these may be overcome with the help of efficient layout. If you have layout properly done, you have enough passage to walk, you have enough space to carry out the materials, you have enough space for the storages, and what happens is you can manage entry and exit of the materials and the finished goods very easily. So we can avoid the bottlenecks very easily. Next comes up is better production control. It is concerned with the production of the product of the right type at the right time and at a reasonable cost. And good plant layout is requisite of the good production control. So wherever the good production control is required, with the help of things being produced at the right time at the reasonable cost, everything can be credited because of the good plant layout. Because in the good plant layout, we have all the requirement being placed at a proper time and place. So what happens is we can make the best out of it. So that is what is said to be the better production control which can be managed. Next comes up is better supervision. We have already seen it. A good plant layout ensures better supervision in two ways. One, we can determine the number of workers to be handled by the supervisors, and enabling the supervisor to get a full view of the entire plant at a glance. And a good plant layout is the first step to good supervision. So you can manage the number of workers. See, if 25 workers are working but they all are placed at a distance and they are placed properly, then all these 25 workers can be managed properly or supervised properly. At a glance, the supervisor comes to know about their working, the machinery being worked, and it gives a good supervision. Good supervision will always lead to a kind of production that we can manage, we can control, and ultimately we can see that we are meeting up with the schedules. Next comes up is improved use of labor. The efficiency of the management lies in using the time for the productive purpose. A good plant layout is one of the factors in effective use of the labor. It makes possible individual operations, the process and the flow of materials handling in such a way that the time of each worker is effectively spent on the productive operations. That means the labor can be used properly. Good layout is there. They know that what is to be done. They know about the individual operations. They know how the materials are to be handled. And ultimately what happens is we can make the best use of the labor, and labor do not get exhausted. Employees do not get exhausted because of the working conditions. So what happens is it helps to have the productive operations out of them. So that is how it helps. Next comes up is improved employee morale. If I told you earlier also that if things are managed properly, if things are placed properly, see, it's like entering a well designed and well furnished and everything at its own place with a decency. When you enter such a kind of house, then ultimately what comes up is you feel like being in the house, you feel like enjoying the company, or you feel like talking to the person or whomsoever you have entered, or whosoever is hosting the party maybe, right? Then you may enjoy that place. But if the same condition is inverse, that means if the house that you enter is haphazardly designed, is not things are not at its proper place, then what happens is ultimately you feel that you want to leave the place as soon as possible. So here's the same thing is applicable, that the morale of the employees often depends upon the better working conditions, better employee facilities, reduced number of accidents, and increased earnings. And the plant layout has a bearing on all this. That means if you want to make best out of the employees, then at that time you have to see that they work in a proper working condition, they are given proper facilities, they have enough safety with them, the accidents are not prone, or the area or the land is not accident prone, right? Then what happens is you can make them work even for the more number of hours. What happens because of that? If they are working for more number of hours, that means they are ultimately giving you the productivity, and likewise they are having the earning on one side. And the plant layout is because of a good plant layout, the manufacturer is having the enough amount of manufactured product, and that is why this may be one of the good condition occurring because of a proper plant layout. Next and the last one comes up is avoidance of unnecessary and costly changes. That means a plant layout avoids frequent changes which are difficult and costly. The flexibility in the plant layout would help in avoidance of the revisions and costly changes. That means if you are having a good plant layout, what happens is you can make the frequent changes. You have not kept only the existing situation in mind, but you have also tried to see that whatever things comes up in future, we are ready for the same, and we can make the best use of the available resources that we have, maybe the area that we have. And what happens is we can use the best things. Every now and then you can't go for costly changes. So what happens is in the layout, when you are deciding the layout for the first time itself, we try to check it that okay, the whatever things are to be managed or whatever things we want to do, we can do it very easily. It is very flexible layout, and we can change it according to our requirement. Once we can do such a kind of layout, that means it's not only giving the benefit for the present but also for the future things. Maybe you are expanding, maybe you want to create one more area, or maybe you want to add to product mix. Then all these things helps out when you have a proper and a flexible layout done. That is why the last line is important. The flexibility and layout would help in avoidance of the revision and costly changes. Means from the beginning, if you know that these many changes you may require, these many things we need to do, then we make the layout done like that. I give you one more example related to a house, right? You may be having a house say with 2 BHK, right? It may be a tenement of 2 BHK, but then as the number of people increases or number of family members increases in the house, there may be a requirement of having one more bedroom or having one or two rooms more. Then at that time, if from the prior area itself, from the beginning itself, if the father is knowing that okay, if we need any kind of extension in the house, we can make it, or we can construct a one more floor on the house, or maybe in the terrace we may have one more floor carried out, right? Then what happens is, this is what the flexibility can be done. In the same way, in the factories also, whenever the things are to be managed or they are to be taken at the initial stage, then always the layout is so arranged keeping in mind the future also. It is not a temporary arrangement. Long term changes you don't want to make. You don't want to go for costly construction. Like today you are constructing, after 5 years, like you don't need it, you just have the deconstruction done, and then again you will have the construction done. Something like that cannot be afforded. That has to be avoided. That can be avoided with the help of proper layout. Thus, layout for any manufacturer plays very important role, and for that we have almost studied as many as 11 points, right? Here today we are going to end up our session. As in, we have seen the scope, that means how the or in which places the plant layout works. We have also seen that what are the objectives, why do we need to have the plant layout or proper plant layout done, that is also we have checked out. And in the end we have seen different 11 points that tells us that why it is significant decision, why it is so important to have the proper plant layout done. I repeat, when I say plant layout is what? It is a kind of arrangement of what? Whatever machineries, whatever equipments that we may be using, and how the equipments are to be used, how they are to be placed, how the facilities are to be arranged. When we make all these decisions, it is considered to be the setting up of the plant layout, and it is very crucial decision after taking up the decision of location. And that is why we have carried out the chapters or the units in a series, that once if you just check it out, the whole syllabus, I keep on repeating in all the lectures I have mostly repeated, that in the first unit we have decided what to produce. It gives an answer to what to produce, whether to produce a tangible product or to go for intangible product. Once we decide that, we have to decide on where to produce. That tells us about the place. Where means where to produce, it tells us about the place. ક્યાં કઈ જગ્યાએ produce કરવાનું છે, that has to be decided. That is facility location that we have dealt in unit number 2, right? And in this unit number 3, once you have decided with the location, then ultimately you have to decide with the layout. You have to fix the layout, you have to design, you have to arrange the layout in such a manner that all the equipments, all the machineries that we are using, all the facilities that we may be using can be best arranged, can be best placed, so that we may have the fastest, we may have the smoothest, and most importantly, we may have the cost effective production done. That is what we have seen in this particular lecture. When we meet in the next lecture, for the lecture to come, we shall take up with the next topics. Till then, it's a goodbye from my side. Take care, remain safe. Thank you.